How's it going, Packers fans? This is Joey here at Underage Packers, and in today's video, I wanted to talk about 5 Packers who have the most to prove in this upcoming season. Now, having a lot to prove, in my opinion, isn't always a bad thing. There is some chances, where it is a bad thing. There's players that have their backs up against their wall, and this is a final chance for them to prove themselves. However, sometimes it's a good situation, like the case is for many players in this video I'm going to mention. This is just a great year for them. They have a great opportunity ahead of them to grab an elevated role on this team for years to come. So, very excited for this. Let's hop in with player number 1, and this player has a lot to prove to the coaching staff, but mostly, in my opinion, to the fans, and that is second-year wide receiver Amari Rodgers. Now, Amari obviously got a lot of opportunities last year in the punt return game. Even after mistake, they still let him go out there. He obviously had a lot of muffed punts, and then on the times when he did catch it, he just looked like a chicken running with its head off. Like he had no idea where to go. And I think the biggest thing for Amari in the punt return game, at least, is confidence. And that just seems like something that a lot of special teams, smart people like to talk about confidence in the punt return game. I think that is visible when you compare Amari Rodgers to not even a good returner, but a solid returner that knows what he's doing. I think when you look at David Moore and the single punt return he got for the Packers this year, he looked like he knew what he was doing. He wasn't so hesitant to, run side to side like Amari did a lot of the time. He had a plan, but at the very least, he executed. He ran forward, which I'm sure this is simplifying things a little bit, and maybe if we got to see David Moore on more chances, it would be more clear what he was like as a returner. But the Packers have obviously had a lot of punt return struggles over the past few years, and, whether it's Tyler Ervin or anybody else who has come in and saved them at the punt return game, they just run with confidence. They execute on their plan and they run forward compared to Trevor Davis, Malik Taylor, and Amari Rodgers. They are just looking for an 80-yard touchdown to just appear in front of them. So they're running side to side waiting for it to happen, and it never does appear. So hopefully in year 2, Amari can gain a lot more confidence. He should get his chance to be in that punt returning mix, at least in preseason and in training camp, and maybe the Packers will throw him out there once again. As far as from scrimmage for Amari, he didn't get too many opportunities last year on offense. Obviously, Randall Cobb being brought back by Aaron Rodgers has a lot to do with that, considering that Amari and Randall are pretty similar players. I mean, Randall Cobb was pretty much the go-to pro comparison for Amari coming out of Clemson. So, obviously, that limited his chances. I'm sure Randall helped out a lot with his development, but Amari didn't get a lot of opportunities from the slot, didn't get a lot of opportunities as the gadget player, and a lot of fans started to have growing concerns about that. I mean, even when Randall missed a few games this year, Amari wasn't getting those chances. So, I understand the concern there, but also this is how the Packers operate. This is how Matt LaFleur operates. They don't really, I don't want to say they don't trust their young players, but they would rather throw out any veteran out there than have Amari Rodgers, playing 15, 20 snaps a game. So in year 2, I think you can expect Amari to get a lot more opportunities from scrimmage as that gadget, Tyler Ervin or Deebo Samuel role in Matt LaFleur's offense, and also just as a slot receiver. So I am very excited to see the progress that Amari has made. For player number 2, I'm going with tight end Josiah DeGuara, who is now going to be entering his 3rd year, pretty much a redshirt sophomore year, I guess you could call it, just because early on in his rookie season, he did suffer an ACL injury, which caused him to miss all the rest of his rookie season, and we didn't get to see too much of him. The little we did see of him early on in his rookie season, the 4 games he was available for, and then in the 2021 season as well, is that he can really be a threat in this receiving game as a tight end. Especially his opportunity comes this year with Robert Tonyan most likely missing some time, or at the very least, taken a few steps slowly recovering from his ACL injury early on in the season. So, Josiah DeGuara, Tyler Davis, Dominique Daphne, they're all going to get huge chances to prove themselves as receiving threats this year, and that is exactly what Josiah DeGuara was made for. He obviously is very versatile in the fact that he can also block in the running pass game, and he's pretty much the perfect fit for Matt LaFleur's offense. Shortly after the draft and after the initial shock and confusion about the draft pick happened, there was a lot of excitement generated about Josiah and how Matt LaFleur could use him, and I think we'll see a lot more of that in the 2022 season. Didn't see as much of it as you would have liked in 2021, but like I said, this is pretty much going to be his second year, especially considering and even in his actual rookie year, he didn't get a full offseason program. He didn't get to build that trust with Aaron Rodgers over that time. So, really looking forward to what Josiah can do, and hopefully he gets those opportunities. For player number 3, I'm going to go with inside backer Chris Barnes, who has had quite the career so far in Green Bay. I mean, the way he built himself into this defense, earned his starting role for the past 2 years, is kind of insane when you think back to it at the start of the 2020 season. I mean, just 3 or 4 days before their first game of the season against Minnesota, Chris Barnes was on the practice squad. But thanks to COVID-19, the one good thing that came out of COVID, at least for football's sake, was the one-game elevations from the practice squad. They give Chris Barnes a one-game elevation against Minnesota, and I wouldn't say he lights it up, but he plays really solid for an undrafted free agent who was sitting on the practice squad on day one. And after that, the rest was history, and he's been a starter on the Packers defense the past 2 years. However, when you look at the recent draft, there's obviously reason for Chris Barnes to have a little bit of nerves about his security on the Packers over these next few years, with the Packers drafting the very athletic linebacker in Quay Walker to pair with the all-pro Devondre Campbell. And typically, it's not really normal for an inside linebacker to go in, rounds 1 through midway through the second round even. That's not normal. The only case that really happens in is if they're just an athletic freak like Devin Bush, Devin White, or now Quay Walker. Quay Walker is just incredibly athletic, very versatile on defense, can play inside linebacker, dime backer. The Packers are even trying him on the outside. So the Packers are obviously going to find many ways to use Quay Walker on Joe Barry's defense. But what this means for Chris Barnes, at least, is that he has to prove that he adds value in a 3 inside linebacker rotation. I don't think he's going to be completely washed out of this defense, even if Quay Walker does come out and play like Ray Lewis day one, which, he's not. But, even if Quay Walker is absolutely insane, washes expectations all over, defensive rookie of the year, whatever, I still think Chris Barnes is going to have a role on this team just because of how Joe Barry likes to use many different inside linebackers, likes to use his safeties, inside linebackers in many different ways. So I still think Chris Barnes will have a role on this team, but he does have to prove there's reason to put him in. There's reason they should trust him when they put Quay Walker on the outside, when they put Quay Walker in the safety hybrid role. So Chris Barnes has a lot to prove this year. I don't think he necessarily has to worry about his job unless he is absolutely suddenly awful, but does have to worry about, still maintaining his role on this team. For my second to last player, I'm going with Tyler Davis, who you've probably heard a lot of, this offseason so far and near the end of last year, where he just increasingly gained a strong role on this team, gained a lot of trust from Aaron Rodgers, and I'm really excited to see what he does early on in this season. As I mentioned earlier, Robert Tonyan is most likely going to miss some time early on this season. So Tyler Davis gained the trust of Aaron Rodgers, gained the praise of Matt LaFleur and even Brian Gutekunst.
His background's pretty interesting, having a quarterback background. He's still, I would say, fairly young at the position. So I think there's a lot of room for growth in front of him, but I think he attacks it the right way, and he's got a great grasp of not only what he's supposed to do, but everybody around him, and you can really, I think you can maximize your own potential by knowing what everybody's doing around you.
And as a tight end, I really don't think there's a weak point to his game. I'm not saying he's Tony Gonzalez or Rob Gronkowski, but he does everything pretty solid. So I think he's going to get even more opportunities this year, and I'm really excited to see if he can be a trusted pass catcher for Aaron Rodgers. For my final player, I'm going with Kylin Hill, the running back who is also suffering from an ACL injury, rehabbing that all off season, and we'll have to see where he is at the start of this season. But I think he has a real opportunity to fill that, not necessarily a big hole or a big need for the Packers, but it is certainly an empty spot up for grabs between Kylin Hill, Patrick Taylor, Tyler Goodson, handful of other undrafted guys that they might bring in. I think Kylin has a really good chance at earning that spot, specifically because of his ability in the receiving game that the Packers will certainly need on offense this year, with a lack of trusted or experienced wide receivers. I think you will see a lot of the running backs used commonly in the receiving game, even more than they were so in the 2021 season. Kylin is great in the receiving game. I think he can be a beast in the running game. He's really quick and twitchy, but he also has a really strong, compact build, if that makes sense. Similar build to Aaron Jones, but I think Kylin's a little bit stronger, can run outside of you, can run through you, do whatever he wants, really, in the running game. So, Kylin, I'm really excited to get him back on the field. Obviously, he was a great kick returner last year, kind of underrated and forgotten in that part, too. I mean, it was really heartbreaking to see him go down on that kick return that he really shouldn't have taken out against Arizona. But before that, he was pretty solid. He wasn't spectacular, but he just didn't do anything stupid in the kick returning game. So I think he is kind of an underrated player for the Packers this upcoming year that I think should add a lot to this offense. All right, that is all I have for you today here at Underage Packers. Let me know in the comments down below what you thought of this video, and also who you think has the most to prove on the Packers this year. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to follow Underage Packers on all the social media, including right here on YouTube, and we'll talk to you later. As always, go Pack Go.